self-care, what does it mean to anybody? What is it? It comes down to, do you love yourself enough to want to give yourself that time to nurture yourself and give yourself the time that you need in order for your body to function properly, in order for you to be able to be there with your family, to be able to be successful in your business, in order to be able to follow your mission in life, right? And so self-care to me, I look at it as I love myself enough. I love myself that I know that this body here that I've been given is the only body I have.
Welcome, fellow entrepreneurs and goal getters, to Entrepreneurial Elevation, Unleashing Greatness Within, with myself, your host, Kelly Beveridge, and my guest today, Mina Satori. And she is chiming in from Colorado. We were just saying almost the sister city to Calgary, Alberta in the States, which is cool. We have really similar personalities. I'm excited for you to meet her. She's amazing. She is an ontological coach, a business coach, and a marketing strategist. She has a degree in psychology, and she has coaching and leadership training and certificates. She is awesome. And I'm excited about what we're going to talk about today. We're going to be focusing on mentoring, what she does, which is mentoring women entrepreneurs in their ability to thrive. And we're going to talk about really how to have some self-care hacks to banish burnout and give more energy. And I just want to share a little bit more about her. She's also a mother, right? She's a biohacker. And I just learned this word today. She's an autodidact, which means she loves to learn. She's a self-learner, and she continues to receive coaching and mentoring herself from world thought leaders. And just really excited to have her here today. I think this is an important topic, being an entrepreneur myself who experienced burnout and is on the road to recovery. And so I'm grateful to have her here today. And so, Mina, just thanks for being on the podcast.
Yay. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you so much for having me on here. You're amazing. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, me too. And you know what? Let's start, if you're okay, before we dive in. I would love to have the listeners and myself learn a little bit more about you and your story and why this topic is a message that you love to speak about. Because I find as coaches or entrepreneurs, a lot of times we get into this space because we've gone through something that we then want to support other people in not having to experience if we can, or supporting them if they can. So did you experience burnout? Is that why you're so passionate about this? And maybe you can share your personal and business story, and then we can take it from there.
Yeah. Yes, Kelly. So I've been a coach for about 17 years now.
Yeah.
And I came from corporate, and I had a good paying job in the mortgage industry for almost 10 years. And then when the mortgage crash happened, and the recession happened back in 2008, I was lost. And so I hired a coach, and I decided to have her help me with all of the things that I was dealing with. I was struggling to find a new job and which career path. And I had a lot of indecisiveness and lack of confidence. And I realized after going through some coaching with her that coaching as a career for me was the right match. I had other ideas and other options there, but none of them were a good fit. So here I am as a newly business owner and on my own as a solopreneur, and working morning to night, wanting to build my business, get clients, spending hours and hours giving away free complimentary sessions. At that time, nobody even knew what a life coach was. They'd be like, "What's a life coach?" And I'd have to educate them on what that is. And by showing, as experiencing the coaching, to see the benefits and the value of it. And I was also a newlywed at that time too. And we're really I was feeling the pressure, really trying to make this business happen and make it work. And so I found myself working morning to night, even going through without lunch. And I'd already had been always like a sick child growing up and had a lot of health issues. And so this whole thing, and then going through the process of working morning to night, And then unfortunately, a few years go by and went through a divorce. And the stress really got to me. The lack of ability to make this business thriving. That was one of the things. I felt like I was failing a lot. I couldn't get it right. There was always a struggle trying to get clients and trying different ways, and it just wasn't working out. And so when I divorced, the added pressure put me over. And I know that looking back, I ended up getting chronic fatigue and my adrenal glands were shot. I had all kinds of problems, really strange, benign infections and allergies and things like that. And I just was really fatigued. I ended up with like pleurisy, ended up in the hospital. I thought it was a heart attack. So there was just a lot of things happening with my health. And it was literally shutting down. My body was shutting down. And I ended up becoming homeless as well. There was a period of time where I was floating and going couch to couch, living at friends' houses or my parents' house, going back in my 30s, back at my dad's or my mom's house. Yeah, it was embarrassing, but I was unable to function. I could barely even walk to the bathroom from the bed and be exhausted. My body just stopped working. And so it was a struggle to get myself back in health. It took me a couple years, actually. And I did overcome this. And I know that I did because I was able to hike down into the Grand Canyon in one day. What is it, like 7 to 8 hours, go down and then hike back up. And I never had a relapse. And so I knew that I beat the chronic illness. I had done a lot of things that I had a lot of support around with homeopathic doctors and friends that are really big biohackers, and they're just like helping me and supporting me. And so through that journey, I really discovered that I had the physical, and which was I was already eating organic. I was already eating healthy. I was exercising. So why is it that I got really sick and all of that? And so through that process, I really understood the body, mind, and spirit connection. And in order for somebody to really be at their optimum health, you really have to address all of those things. So I got coached on a deeper level and understood the underlying story of why I was chronically ill, why I was as a child too. It was a really great way for me to really understand my illness and the connection between my thoughts and also my connection to spirit, which is my own inner guidance. And so through this process, I just felt it was so more important to take care of myself on all these three levels. And then continuing this journey of making sure that I'm taking care of myself and not working so hard, 15-hour days, and giving myself breaks. Yeah. Yeah. And actually having a life and actually bringing in and incorporating some fun.
Yeah, go figure it. Oh my gosh. It's
Yeah.
a crazy story. And I know you just shared it in a nutshell, like for the sake of the podcast, yet that's a lot. And thank you for sharing all that. Doesn't mean as you're sharing, I can relate. I went through something really similar, working 10 to 15-hour days for the sake of my business and just go, go, go until I couldn't. And my body started to shut down and I was so tired. And I know I have a lot of friends who've gone through a similar scenario, obviously with different circumstances. And it's very common, unfortunately. So I'm so grateful that we're even talking about this today to hopefully support those who are listening in some ways that they can be proactive, right? Or implement some self-care into their daily practice so that they're not just working, which is typical of high achievers, right? To just put your nose to the grindstone and do whatever it takes to create the results that we desire. And you went through a lot, right? And so I'm grateful that you're here now speaking this message into existence through your experience. What would you say was the first thing, like if you look back, and you had that moment, right, where you started to take care of yourself, what would you say was the first self-care habit you implemented that made a tangible difference and even that you still continue to do today?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Oh gosh, there's a lot of them that I did. There were several things, and I think it's a combination of things too. But if I were to pick one, it was learning to be okay with taking some time off and going just on a nature walk, go for a hike, whatever it is. actually step away from the desk and don't feel guilty doing that. I had to learn to do that. That was a big important piece of it. And then everything else followed because once I let go of that guilt of, okay, I need to take a break. It's kind of like pace yourself, right? The turtle and the hare.
Mm-hmm.
You got to pace yourself. And doing like the Pomodoro timing, every 25 minutes, you take a 5-minute break. You work for 25 minutes, you do a real focused 25-minute task, and then you take a break 5 minutes, the Pomodoro method. And then meditation too. Meditation was also a really big, important piece of it to calm my mind and bring peace. Yeah. So there was a lot of things over time too. I've learned, and even to this day, I also do grounding. You go outside and you get some sun and you put your feet in the earth. That's an excellent thing that's so easy and it's free. People can just go out there and just get some grounding. It'll help normalize and regulate your heart rate. It does a lot of things. And I just recently found out from a doctor I was just talking to yesterday. He was telling me that it helps balance your pH levels when you ground yourself. Isn't that interesting? That was really neat. Yeah.
You know, you mentioned something interesting that I think I want to highlight. You talked about the guilt. And I feel like women, high achievers, entrepreneurs really struggle with this idea of allowing themselves time away from their business. And I'm curious because we'll talk more about the hacks. We'll get into the self-care yet. I want to focus on this for a sec because I'm curious. You said one of the first things you did was you started to even allow yourself, right, the time away or the time to focus on you. Can you think of maybe some mindset shifts or just some guidance you would give if somebody's listening right now and they're in that space where they want to allow themselves that time, yet the guilt is so huge? What would you recommend?
Great question. Yeah. So, what I would first recommend is just noticing and just being self aware of the guilt that you're having. A lot of times it's automatic and we just don't even recognize or believe it. And then we just work through it and we continue to do that thing that's not supporting us. And our behaviors are directly related to our thoughts. Our thought, our energy, and we know, and the thoughts dictate the things that we do. So if you're coming from that place of guilt, then you're gonna sit there and try to grind through more. You're gonna try to stay longer at the office or whatever. And I invite you to just first recognize when that happens. And then I like to call it the NRG. N stands for notice. Second is release, and G is generate. And so when you notice that you are feeling that enormous amount of guilt, take a look and see how you might look at it differently by asking a question to be able to let that guilt go. So that's the releasing part. So you could say something like, by me having this guilt, what is it costing me? What am I not getting? I'm not getting proper rest and sustaining myself to replenish the energy that I need, even if it's just even eating a snack or a meal or something. And it's costing the ability to be productive, right? Taking a look at what you're not getting when you have this enormous amount of guilt. And also then looking at it, well, okay, if you want to let that go, what can you think about instead? That's the generating. You generate a new thought. You think about it, okay. And it could be something as simple as just saying, I allow myself to take a break, or I'm giving myself permission to do some self-care. And it's this practice thing that somebody, automatically just stays in, and you just got to shift that. You got to just change that cycle of continuing down the path of what you're doing by giving yourself something new to have another belief or another thought to have instead. Most people may not even, and this has happened before. I've had clients where they want to keep holding on to that story. They strongly want to just keep holding on to it. And so my question is, how long are you going to hold on to that? And when are you going to actually want to let that go? And some people realize, oh, yeah, I don't want to continue to imagine 5 years from now still being like this and me being miserable. No, that's not going to work.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I like that you shared that NRG. When I'm just sitting here thinking, like, it's almost having this perspective where you think, you know what, self-care is actually a non-negotiable. And I used to think of it as an entrepreneur like a luxury, right? Must be nice, right? When I heard other people taking time for themselves, must be nice. And now it's an absolute non-negotiable part of my day because with that being the priority, my health, I'm more successful, right? I'm creating more abundance in my life. And I'm curious, we're throwing out this word self-care. So before we talk about some hacks and some suggestions you have, when I say self-care, what does that mean to you?
Self care, what does it mean to anybody? What is it? It comes down to, do you love yourself enough to want to give yourself that time to nurture yourself and give yourself the time that you need in order for your body to function properly, in order for you to be able to be there with your family, to be able to be successful in your business, in order to be able to follow your mission in life, right? And so self care to me, I look at it as I love myself enough. I love myself that I know that this body here that I've been given is the only body I have, and I'm on a big mission in life, and I want it to take me where I want it to go, because I had been in a place where my body literally, I was in it like living almost like in a dead body, like it could barely move or function. My brain wasn't working. I had brain fog. I could barely even form sentences. And so when I didn't have that, it was not the best place to be, because nothing else that I was able to try to do was working because of that. And so if you look at it as loving yourself, first of all, to know that you deserve it, you need to take time to rest. And it's going to help the other people around you too. When you're not, they use that analogy in the airplane, right? When you put the oxygen mask on, they say to put it on first for the parent before they put it on the child. How are you able to help that child if you're not able to breathe? So in life, it's no different. We have to make sure that we're putting the oxygen mask on ourselves in order to be there fully in our relationships and for our children and for our work.
Right. Hi, I'm Tanya, and this is Julie, and we are the founders of Coach Core, your all in one solution for building and scaling a successful coaching business.
At Coach Core, we provide you with everything you need in one place. You can house your courses, manage memberships, run email campaigns, and create stunning websites and funnels, all with our easy-to-use platform.
And it's not just about the software. We offer built-in coaching and mentorship, helping you implement best practices from certified NLP practitioners and story brand coaches. And that's just scratching the surface of what's inside.
And that's why we're excited to sponsor the Entrepreneurial Elevation podcast with Kelly Beveridge. Kelly is a thought leader who inspires and elevates entrepreneurs worldwide.
We believe in the power of community and continuous learning, and this podcast is a fantastic resource for any coach looking to truly grow their practice.
So join us on this journey. Tune into the Entrepreneurial Elevation podcast for insights and inspiration, and visit Coach Core to transform your coaching business today.
Coach Core, your path to coaching success.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that definition too. And I agree. And so if we were going to share some hacks, right? We said we were going to share some hacks so that we don't get to burnout. We don't actually get there, which is the goal. Not just that yet, to be successful and to be able to be present in the other areas of our life, which I think is important too, right? We're not just talking about business success. We're also talking about living a fulfilling life and being able to spend time and energy with relationships and with your health. So what are some hacks that you have, maybe 3 or 4 or however many you would like to share? What would you share are some tips that you swear by and why?
Yeah, the obvious ones stick out for me: sleep and eating healthy whole food, right? And staying away from sugar and junk foods that weigh down on us and create toxicity in our brains and our minds. Also, just whatever routine, I do believe that everybody is different. And so even when I work with clients, every client is different for them. We talk about what are some of the things that you want to do on a daily and a weekly basis that you can stick with, that you can commit to, that might be small enough that it doesn't take up a lot of time, but also has a great impact over a long period of time, that it can have a significant benefit to it. So even if it's like high impact, like 10 or 20-minute high impact cardio, I think it's easy for people to fit that in, and you're still getting the benefits of getting your heart rate up and strength training, those kind of things. And then, of course, there's other things depending on the person and where they are, energy level. I really, I really do like to make sure that the internal body and the system is working right. When we are sluggish, like especially in our guts, there could be an overload of toxicity or having leaky gut and stuff like that. I recommend maybe checking out something like enemas or hydrocolon cleanse or something to just clear out the toxin. Because I can't tell you how many times like I go and I get a hydrocolon cleanse and instantly my energy levels up and I feel great and I'm happy. Mood is number one, making sure you're doing the mental floss that people call it every day. What are you doing to keep yourself positive? Is it through affirmations, meditation, things like that? Now, if we want to talk about some like other hacks, I would say this goes deep for me. And if you don't mind, I'm going to just share with you. This is like my life now has changed so much from 15 years ago that I don't have toxic chemicals in my home. I've taken away all of the Tide and all these toxic soaps and chemical that we put, even lotion that we put on our bodies and in our hairs and stuff. All of these things will weigh down our immune system and make us tired. And our body's always trying to fight off something because it's invading our system. And so our body is constantly going against it already when we're outside in the environment. There's already toxins in the air and stuff. We know that. And so really trying to do the best you can to clean yourself in your home, keep it clean in your home and in your body. So like I have even these really great supplements as well to help with the adrenals and cortisol. And I take those if I need it, if I feel like I'm feeling run down, like I'm about to catch a cold or things like that. Oregano oil is fantastic, antibacterial, antimicrobial. A few drops of oregano in the throat when you have a sore throat, instantly it just zaps it out. It's really strong. A lot of people are going to be like, oh, it burns. It's like a peppery hot pepper, but it'll kill all that bacteria in your throat instantly. It's just so great to have these kind of things on hand. Even another one that's really good, GSE, grapefruit seed extract. I have that. It's always in my medicine cabinet and I always travel with it. I can tell you, I went to some resort in Mexico and with some friends, and we're talking with some people at the pool area, and this couple is really suffering because they're having like the Montezuma revenge. Their stomachs and everything is just, because down in Mexico, the water can be contaminated. And we were even at a resort, this 5-star resort, and where we were getting sick. And I was taking my GSC and I was totally fine. And then this couple too, I gave them a couple pills of that. And then the next day I saw them and oh, that helped so much. It was just like gone instantly. Like those kind of things, I really feel if you have the right support of making sure your body and immune system is in check, doing whatever it takes to take care of that. And then also the mindset and what grounding, all of these things, meditation, I incorporate a lot of these things and I keep myself always active and exercising. And I have a 5-year-old, so I have to make sure also that I can catch up with her because she's got so much energy. And I'm like, yeah, I need to make sure that I can play with her, pick her up, whatever, all those things, and take her to her activities and things like that. So it's just really, for me, it's a priority. Like you said, it's a non-negotiable. That self-care piece is non-negotiable. It's like now that I see, you can see the benefits and the result of it, you will want to take care of yourself more.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love everything you shared. And it's so interesting because I never really know what people are going to share when I ask questions. And I love that what you mostly talked about, to me anyways, my experience, what I heard was health, right? Take care of your health, nurture yourself, your immune system, your gut health, like you said, your body, and it starts there. And these are things that we do actually absolutely have control over. And that's so huge because I love that. If we're giving guidance, this is something you can actually choose to do. And so that's awesome. And I know what I want to also ask on top of this is because we were talking before we started the podcast and we were chatting about your inner authentic self. And I'm sitting here thinking, because I'm thinking about burnout, right? And I'm just relating it to my own experience and your story. So yes, one, health, I wasn't doing any of those things. Well, even though like I would even schedule it sometimes and I wouldn't do it, or I would think about it a lot and I didn't do it. I knew it was important and I didn't do it. Right. And so what I decided to change was actually following through and keeping my word on those things.
Yes.
Another, I would say that I would love for you to talk about the reason why I experienced burnout was this topic of inner authentic self, because I found myself after a while when I was in survival mode a bit, I was chasing success, right? I was surrounding myself with a lot of very successful people. I was doing really well. I was traveling a lot and I got caught up in this ideal of what success looked like to other people. And therefore, I was working the 10 to 15 hours a day as well. And I lost sight of my own self, my own values, my own inner authentic voice. And I really did actually put that to the side in this pursuit of success. And that's something I've really changed over the last year. So I'm really curious your take on this. Like, why did you say inner authentic self is also an important part of the equation?
Yeah, great point. Kelly, I want to just give a shout out for you that you had recognized some of these things for yourself and seeing how you can just slow down a little bit and not continue to be chasing after that because we can, as type A's, yeah, we're just like high achievers. We want to just accomplish a lot. And then when we see other people, we want to also compare ourselves too. I know that's been my case. I know I of that and been there, done that. I get it. And so I think the inner authentic self piece, what I see is for me, I think it started about, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago or something. I just recognized how I was not allowing myself to fully express all the facets of who I am. And when I did, there was so much freedom in that. And also the amount of energy. It's like when you're in the flow, when you connect with your inner authentic self, you're in this flow. It feels easy. Like you're just being who you are and you show up as you are and people become attracted to that. You become a magnet to that. I think this inner authentic self piece, especially I was going through a masterclass with these women and we talked about this and what it looked like to connect to your inner authentic self. For one, you could get more sales or more business that way. Things just start working better in your life, right? You'll be happier. There's a lot of benefit to coming from the inner authentic self. And also the biggest piece is that you're going to access a greater source of wisdom. I really believe in trusting your divine, your intuition, and what it's telling you. Because this is the way I see it. You have all the answers in you. There's no need to go outside and look at elsewhere or at other people to know what you're supposed to be focusing on or what you're supposed to be doing. If you can turn the table and look within, you will actually know, and your inner guidance is going to tell you and direct you to the right path. And so the possibilities are endless if you really listen and you just go into connecting with your own true self and seeing what you want and what you don't want. And I think that's the hardest part too, is people pleasing is a big one where people are always wanting to, like, through even just the achievement, success and stuff, and wanting to please other people and not recognizing that there's a cost to that too, right? Which is a cost to yourself. If you are not really 100% and you're not integrous with what you truly want and you're just going with what other people are saying or doing, So that's not a good way to live. That's not a good way to be. That incongruency. And also, even when you talk to people and you're doing something like a business deal or anything like that, they're going to know, they're going to sense that energy is not there. It's incongruent.
Yeah. Oh, I
And
love.
so getting into that is really, for me, I think it's become more of a priority more than ever.
Yeah, agreed. And I don't know if that comes with age or wisdom or experience, yet it's know thyself, right? Like I
Yeah.
find some of the hardest questions to answer are the most important. Like number one, what do you want? And number two, who are you? Those two questions, not easy ones yet. If we're asking the questions and we're curious and we're in discovery and we're self-learners, we're gonna figure it out. And I teach a lot about values and knowing what your values are and then designing your schedule in a way that reflects them so you can start to realize you are in control of designing your life.
I
If
love
you,
that.
yeah, and it's not about adding extra hours to the day to be successful. It's about ensuring that your values are aligned and you're able to show up in the areas you want to be present. And so I'm
Thank you.
curious,
Yeah.
it brings me to this thought of boundaries, mindset, like some of the things that are required to avoid burnout again. And so I just have a few kind of random questions. It doesn't necessarily fit into what we're talking about, yet I want to ask them to you because I'm curious just what your answer is going to be. What role does saying no play in self-care, and how can women entrepreneurs get better at this?
Mm. What role does saying no have? I think it has a lot to do with your energy and how much you can put out. Realistically, let's be realistic and honest. When you have so many obligations, when you're running a business, when you have a family to take care of, when you have extended family and friends and all that stuff, there has to be some boundaries there. And in order for you to be able to sustain and keep going and doing what you're doing, otherwise the burnout, it's going to hit real hard. And I see that there's some patterns of different types of the way that the burnout shows up. Some people withdraw, and some people just can revert back to a little 5-year-old, like having a meltdown. I know I do. I once I hit that wall, I'm like, oh, I know where I am. I need to go back and I need to go lay down or I need to go take care of myself. And recognizing that we all have this cycle. There's a cycle that everybody goes through, and you can actually predict and know exactly your pattern in when you feel burnt out and
Mm,
overwhelmed.
interesting.
I actually walk my clients through this process, and it's beautiful because I can see in their eyes, they're like, oh, so they can see it right in front of them exactly what's going on. We all walk around with these automatic ways of being, and a lot of it we don't even know or recognize what we're doing. It's on a subconscious level, and we just don't recognize what's happening. Once we put it up on the surface so that the person is aware of what's happening, then that's when you have control. You can gain control back. You can literally harness that information to empower yourself to see where you're able to maybe break that cycle so that you don't continue down that path and that slippery road. And so saying no is a big piece of it, because when you are saying no, you're saying yes to a lot more other possibilities that you may not be recognizing or never know or can't see, because you're so in that cycle, that automatic subconscious way of doing things, that being outside of that, you don't know what else is out there. So when we look at it that way, we can see how we want to shift ourselves to basically turn this around, to be able to be more empowered and feel like you're in more control. And actually learning to say no is very healthy, I've learned. And it comes with knowing that you're safe to feeling safe to say no.
Yeah. No, thanks. And you shared, I like that you talked about, and thanks for that answer. And you shared about how you start to become more like a 5-year-old, right? Almost on a breakdown. And you're like, whoa, okay, I'm approaching burnout. And that you can walk people through cycles I'm curious, are you able to share a couple more? Like, how will some of the listeners know that they're on the verge of burnout? What are a couple other cycles people go through or patterns that show up or just ways of being where it's like that awareness of, hey, you might want to take a look at this.
Yeah. So some of them are just maybe perhaps having some kind of vice. Some people, like maybe it's eating junk food or maybe it's smoking or something else. When you start beginning to do that, because the stress level can be so high, you want that instant gratification. And there might be something there that's soothing. Eating that chocolate or ice cream or having that cigarette can help actually calm a person down. So it's like paying attention and noticing when you go for that bag of chips. Is there something going on in your outer world, in your environment right now that's stressing you, that maybe you're perhaps wanting to have that instant gratification? That's kind of one example. And then another one is relationships. The people tend to, I see, sabotage relationships and maybe withhold themselves from having connection and showing love. Like when they're burnt out, they're just like wanting to just not be around people. Right?
Yeah, been there.
Yeah. So those are a few.
Those are a couple. Cool. Okay, and one more question before we ask about yourself and we start to wrap up. We're chatting about all this, and you had this experience where you went from burnout to thriving. And so, what is the correlation with focusing on your well being to your productivity in business? Do you believe they're correlated? And maybe just speak to that for the entrepreneurs who are here so we can just give them more permission to actually take care of themselves and put themselves first, because that means that they will actually become more successful in their business life too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. What you're sharing is really fascinating because I I can imagine that some of the listeners here are thinking to themselves, no way, no, I'm mission driven and no way, I got a mission and I'm determined and I'm driven and yet I'm ready to look at where is this coming from, that maybe perhaps you might want to look at for yourself as far as what is this underlying story behind that is maybe perhaps getting in the way from you to see the benefits of doing self-care and preventing burnout or doing what you need to and knowing that it's okay to take care of yourself. I think when we look at that and looking at that underlying story, it can help us to recognize and gain some insight of what's really going on. So in order for a person to really truly have that shift, they first have to look at this, which is just, it's very important, I think. If you don't, then otherwise you're just going to continue to keep that cycle and you're going to miss out on a whole new opportunity. And so why is it important for an entrepreneur and for business driven people to do the self-care? Well, again, it comes down to you'll be more productive. You will get actually more done. And there are studies and they've shown that you are more productive rather than they say at the hour, like after 1 hour of concentration and focus, your mind is already not wanting to take any more information in, which is why I like the Pomodoro method, because you can get spurts and your focus and your attention is so laser that you actually get more accomplished and you get it done in a shorter period of time than you actually thought you could. It's actually pretty cool. So yeah, you can the amount of time so you can get more done and you will actually be more productive that way.
Yeah, no, I love it. And you know what? I know it's true because that's been the case for me. I know that's been the case for you, right? We're more productive. We're more successful now because we slowed down to take care of ourselves. I was just telling my friend the other day, I was like, I take my dog for 2 hours of walks a day. That would never be the version of Kelly. I would be like, there's no way I've got time for that. Like I'm out midday, right? Twice a day, walking them for an hour each time. And my business has increased. Like my business has improved. I agree fully. So, Mina, where can people? Yeah, thank you. So we're proof. You and I are proof right here that this works, and we're a work in progress. I'm a work in progress. I have to be very conscious of it because it can kick in the high achiever that I need to do more, that I'm not doing enough. All of that can kick in. Right.
So relate. And it is a maintenance thing, right? Because it just shows that we're human. We're always wanting to achieve. We're always wanting to do things, and just taking a look at recognizing when you go down that slippery slope and then just bringing yourself back.
Yeah, exactly. And so, Mina, where can people find you? So, where can they find you on social media? If they want to know more about your coaching and your services, where can they get a hold of that information? And we'll put it in the show notes, of course, as well. And is there anything you want to share that you have coming down the pipeline with your business?
Yeah, thank you. Anybody wants to find more information, the best place is just on my website, minasatori.com. So MINAS like Sam, ATORI.com. You can also follow me on Instagram at Coach Mina Satori, and also LinkedIn as well, just with my name. And I do have an upcoming program that I'm going to be launching for women entrepreneurs. And if they're interested in that and to get more information, it's on my website, and there is a link on there and up at the top, and just click on that, and then you can get yourself on the list to, once it's ready and launched, then you can get that information as well. The Thriving Female Entrepreneur Program that I spearheaded and did the soft launch, and now I'm going to be recreating and upgrading that so that it's going to be available to a lot more women to support them in all areas of their life, including business, of course, so that they can succeed and be fearless in their businesses.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Thank you so much. And congratulations on getting that launched. And so, everybody, go and check out Mina. Go and check her out. She's been awesome. We've been having a lot of fun coming together to put this podcast episode on. And okay, Mina, I have a few last questions. So, first question, now at this time in your life, how would you define success for you today?
Oh, yeah. From before, it wasn't about chasing. It was recognizing that I needed to slow down, and I needed to also recognize that my values of putting my values first, like relationships first, my child first, those kind of things, and knowing that I'm fully there and doing my best. I'm a recovering perfectionist. So there was that before where I felt that everything had to be perfect in order to succeed. And now I just accept that we are perfectly imperfect, and knowing that everything gets done, not worrying or stressing about it so much as like I was before, and just really recognizing that true success comes from when you've reached a point that you are knowing that you are coming from a place of integrity and genuineness, and your intentions are good, and you are out helping people, serving others. I love to be able to be of service to other people. I do give pro bono coaching to certain organizations and groups and such, and just really truly knowing that these are my gifts and this is what I'm here to be doing. So knowing what I'm called to do, I think it makes me feel like I figured it out, right? I figured out that this is where success is. It's not about having that corner office and having all this money, but also living comfortably and being able to have the freedom to live your life unleashed, basically.
I love it. That's actually a perfect segue into my next question, because my next question, my tagline for my podcast is Unleashing Greatness Within. And so, what
Love
are
it.
tips to help someone unleash their inner greatness?
Yeah. So take a look for yourself where you want to focus on. What is it that that North Star? And then looking at why. Really looking at the why, I think, is a really important piece that can motivate us and drive us to do what we're doing. And being able to know that you have what it takes, you have the inner answers and guidance. It's just a matter of tapping into it and knowing that, you're on the right path, and not being afraid, letting go of those fears and stories, worrying about what other people may think. If you have a great vision and you really believe in it, it doesn't matter what other people think. Stick with your own true self and just be really learning to be okay and safe doing so. And if people around you are there's naysayers, there's always going to be naysayers. It's just you just have to tune them out.
It's true, right? The law of opposites is always at play, I like to say. So as you grow and become more visible and your voice gets louder, there's going to be equal people that may not agree with your message. And that's okay, because we're looking to align with the ones that do and serve the ones that need to hear what we have to say, right? So I love that. It's so true. So Mina,
Yeah.
okay, last question. Based on your message today around self-care, what would be one call to action that you would share with the listeners to implement this week? So they hop off this episode, they're all jazzed up. What's one thing you would say to go and implement?
Yeah, great question. So I would say start with one thing first. Don't feel like you have to go accomplish all of them. Let's say you have a handful of things that you want to change your habits, drink more water or whatever, exercise 5 times or three to 5 times a week. Pick one thing and go do it. Start just making that intention of doing it and not let yourself make any reasons or excuses to not do it, but just go and do it. And then also just watching yourself and seeing, like, the self-observation is really key. Noticing when you're going into those old habits that are not serving you and just paying attention to it. Sometimes a person just needs to just be aware of it and then things start changing right away. It's really fascinating when we start recognizing it. So yeah, just pick one thing. I like to suggest and recommend this book, Darren Hardy, a book called The Compound Effect. He talks about this more in depth about how to change habits. And he's got some really great tips and insights in there. But you really want to just pick one thing, go change that. Once you've gotten into a habit of that new way that you want to be in that area, then you go pick another area and you start changing that. And you just take the time to do those one by one.
Love it. I love it, Mina. Thank you so much for being here and sharing such great hacks and such an important topic, because we really want everybody to live a fulfilling life and not get to a space where they are in burnout, right? So if you can avoid it and prevent it, that's really what this episode's about. And Mina, just thank you so much for being here and for being who you are. And I'm so grateful that we met.
Me too, Kelly. Thank you so much for having me. And you're doing such a wonderful job with your podcast and all the people. You're having such a positive impact. It was an honor to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Mina. I want to thank Mina so much for being here today and being on the episode. I love this conversation because I just think it's so important right now to have a belief that you can be wildly successful, and it doesn't have to be at the expense of your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health. It doesn't have to be at the expense of your relationships or your joy or your fun and your adventure, right? And so just some really great tips and some things to think about and be curious about as you're building your business and scaling your business, to also make sure that you're being proactive with your with yourself and your well-being, so that you can continue to put time, effort, and energy into your business as well. And so just great topic. Thank you, Mina, for being here. If you enjoyed this episode, I encourage you to go back to episode 5, where we talked to my good friend, Jody Crawford, about her solution called the Pink and Blue Solution, which is really about taking radical responsibility for your life, similar to what we talked about today, and knowing that you can be in your doing energy and your productive energy and your building energy, yet it's equally important to be in your relax energy, your rejuvenation energy, your beingness energy, right? And fill your cup up so you can continue to move forward in your life. And so that was also a great episode. If you enjoyed this one, you'll like that one. So just look forward to next episode. Hope you tune in, and just thank you so much once again for being here. With love, greatness, and success, it's your host, Kelly Beveridge.